This episode of the D-Lew Podcast is brought to you by Goalie Nutrition. As someone who's used Goalie for quite some time, I can tell you that they're not only very good, but they're very beneficial. My favorite are the Super Green Gummies. The Super Green Gummies are uniquely crafted with a spectrum of essential nutrients such as vitamins A, B12, folic acid, and thiamine. It supports a healthy liver function, healthy nervous and immune system, digestive health, a boost to your metabolism, and overall health and well-being. There are no artificial sweeteners, flavors, or colors from artificial sources. They're vegan-friendly, gluten-free, and gelatin-free. All loyal listeners of the D-Lew Podcast get a special 10% discount at checkout. Go to goalie.com, use promo code DLEW. That's goalie.com, use promo code DLEW. This podcast is a Believe Network and Siete production. Welcome to another edition of the D-Lew Podcast, brought to you by Believe Network. I'm your host, Derrick T. Lewis, and I hope you all that are listening in the United States, I hope you all had an absolutely wonderful 4th of July holiday. You know, as for me, I really didn't do too much of a lot. I actually just sat here and relaxed and just binged on some streaming apps, Netflix, Hulu, Prime Video. I literally just wanted to just chill out and not do a lot. So that was the gist of my holiday. And of course, it rained where I live. I don't know how the weather was where you are across the country in the U.S., but it was raining off and on here, so really not much to do. But this past Saturday, I actually had the opportunity to watch WWE's Money in the Bank. It was an early start for us at 3 p.m. Eastern because they were over in London, England at the O2 Arena. And I got to tell you, it was an incredible event. I mean, any time that, you have those crowds, in the UK, especially when they come over for Mania Week and they're at the Raw after WrestleMania, they're a pretty rowdy crowd. So they were very energetic the entire night. But this week's episode, I actually go over the whole entire premium live event, WWE's Money in the Bank, with someone that I've known for a very, very long time, Julian Smith, and you've heard me advertise the Watcherz Podcast. Well, he's one of the 5 hosts of that show, and he and I break down the entire Money in the Bank event. We share our opinions about it and what we liked, what we didn't like, and what the future holds, from here on out for the rest of the year. So let's not wait any longer. The Money in the Bank recap show starts right now. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce, a gentleman that I've known, my goodness, probably 16, 17 years now. We met in the wrestling space many, many years ago. He is one of the 5 hosts of the Watcherz Podcast. Julian Smith, welcome to the D-Lew Podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem, man. And like I said, we've been talking wrestling for years. So, like I said, he has an incredible podcast. You guys can subscribe to. They're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. So make sure you check out Watcherz Podcast. Watcherz with the Z, by the way. So we're going to talk about Money in the Bank, and we're recording this on a Sunday, actually. So depending upon when you get this episode, we are recording the day after. So all of this is basically fresh in our minds. Let's start off with, the attendance, obviously, going into this pay-per-view. They were at the O2 Arena in London, 18,885 fans, action-packed crowd. The crowd was excited the entire night. So let's get right into it, man. So we had the 7-man Money in the Bank ladder match with Damian Priest, Butch, LA Knight, Logan Paul, Ricochet, Santos Escobar, and Shinsuke Nakamura. First off, let me just say this. The rise of LA Knight, that the organic rise, I might add, has been impeccable.
I like it. I like it because it's something that has not been done in a while. A guy organically has gotten over. Not the machine force feeding this guy down his or her throats right now.
Right.
I like it. I also think that it was the right decision for Damian Priest to win this thing. Because this is not, if anything, this is going to elevate LA Knight even more. And people are going to want to start seeing him more and more and more. So this isn't going to hurt him. I do like the fact that Damian Priest, they're not overlooking the work that he's been putting in previous to LA Knight's rise right now. I'm glad he won it, and I'm glad it was new people involved in this Money in the Bank ladder match. Because you need to see something new. It's something fresh, not just the same old people doing everything in there. So it's interesting to see where everybody goes from here right now, because they're all in there, right? I wouldn't have been mad with any of the guys winning, but except Logan Paul.
Yeah, I think, it would have been, they probably would have rioted if that was the case. Those British fans are riotous for sure. But no, to your point, man, with LA Knight, again, think about this for a second. He was just in that pitch black match with Bray Wyatt at the Royal Rumble, and everyone thought that he was going to fade to obscurity because it's like, what are they doing with him? And and I was at SmackDown the night before night one of WrestleMania in LA,
really?
And LA Knight was in a battle royal,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how it came across on television, but the crowd was behind LA Knight when he got eliminated. Oh, the crowd booed.
Oh, wow.
That just lets you know. And again, this reminds me of Austin's rise in 96, 97, where he was starting to, he was starting to really, you started seeing it. You know what I mean?
I think what makes LA Knight so interesting is the fact that he can talk on this microphone. I mean, I'm looking at that company as a broad right now. Nobody's really commanding the audience.
Right.
With his charisma. I'm not saying that LA Knight is the best wrestler, but the WWE has always been about who can get on that talk, who can talk on a microphone, who can bring people into the building.
Absolutely.
And the fact that LA Knight is organically has gotten over, which is something that I love. I love seeing this, a natural rise of a guy that's ascending to be something bigger than what he's going to be. It's interesting to see where they're going to put him now, or what feuds they're going to have him in, because clearly he's going to be the one selling this thing now because of his mouth alone. I think right now, a good feud with him would be Logan Paul, because they both can use their mouth, and they can use, Logan Paul's good with his social media, and LA Knight is just going to poke the bear, so that would be one good feud to see him in.
It would, but it all depends on Logan Paul's schedule, because he is technically a part-timer. Yeah. But, again, Damian Priest did grab the Money in the Bank briefcase, and he can challenge for any title that he wants.
Yeah, shout out to him, too, because he's been putting in some work.
It's near and dear to me because Damian Priest, a.k.a. Tony Smith Martinez, was former, he was one, not only was he a former graduate of the Monster Factory, but he was actually one of the coaches at the Monster Factory, where I'm a ring announcer at. And my first day at the factory was technically his last day there, because he was still working at Ring of Honor, and he was about to get signed to WWE. And he actually, he agented the Battle Royal that night. So that was like my interaction, my only interaction with him as far as being there, but just to see one of our guys, do something this big, says a lot. So kudos to Damian Priest, and kudos to the other 6 guys that were in the ladder match. The next match, for the women's tag team championships, you had the champions Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler taking on the former champions Raquel Rodriguez and the returning Liv Morgan. Mid-match, totally unexpected. I'm trying to figure, wait a minute. She tags Ronda in. Ronda's getting ready to attack, and Shayna Baszler just beats her down and chokes her out. And I'm like, what is this?
This was a case of Scarface shooting Manolo. I didn't see this one coming.
No one saw it coming, but also, too, you got to think about this for a second. Is this? You mentioned something to me yesterday in regards you thinking that Ronda's going back to UFC?
I don't know if that's the rumor, but it's something behind them losing, or her losing. It was something I was reading the other day that was basically saying some people are trying to talk Ronda Rousey into possibly going back into the UFC because she may have some winnable fights. I don't know.
But I'm trying to understand though. It's like, why was she? I mean, like I was talking about yesterday. How on earth are you going to sit? I mean, how do I put this? what does she have to prove going back to in mixed martial arts? Is my question.
Nothing. I don't think she has anything left to prove. But at the same time, this is just one of them things where it depends on what Ronda wants to do. Because this was it caught everybody off guard. I mean, I like it just because it added drama to the match.
I mean, it really did,
But
because it was totally it was unexpected. And also, to me, I'm just like, well, SummerSlam is around the corner. They're going to need some women's matches that are not regarding the title. You know what I mean? It's not regarding the title. It's not regarding anything. I think having just a one-on-one match for the simple fact that these two people have an issue. Mm-hmm. They have it in the men's division. Why you can't have it in the women's division? Not every women's match has to be, or we're going to have our token women's match, 2 women's title matches, and go on. No, they need some other compelling stories that they can tell. You know what I mean? And that can ultimately, who knows?
It's an interesting thing. I mean, I really think Ronda Rousey is over the wrestling thing right now because the crowd's turned on her. I mean, let's just call it.
Even as a heel, I think it's, as they say, go away heat.
Yeah, I don't think people really grasp the hold of her as a WWE superstar. I just think just because of seeing what some of these other celebrities are doing now.
Right.
And just
are you talking about like Logan Paul and
Bunny and all that? It's something about Rousey I don't think is catching on with a wrestling fan. I mean, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I'm not knocking her for any means because I don't get into that. That's not my profession. I'm not the one that's going to like criticize them or say anything bad about her. But I just really think she's not clicking with this audience, and it's showing in her body language and it's showing in some of her matches. So I think it may be best if she part ways and then really figure out what she wants to do.
I mean, her being an ambassador for the company could be a good thing. You know, there's many other. I mean, I think she cared in the beginning. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that she doesn't care now. I'm just saying I think she cared more when she first got there. What was that, 2017, 2018? 2018, when she showed up at the Royal Rumble. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, she's really going to do this. And apparently her contract was actually supposed to go up until Survivor Series.
Oh, really?
She wasn't even supposed to stay that long. That Mania 35, she ended up signing an extension to that contract.
Oh,
so
handshake agreement.
Probably. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, I mean, she put the work in. It's not like she didn't train or anything. I just think that her becoming a mom, they could, you just never know, real life. Yeah. And I'm not discriminating against women, guys. What I'm saying is that responsibilities and all these other things, you're trying to divide you divide your interests.
You can't have a lot of times. You want to balance your time out. Maybe that is a big thing. I mean, it's just crazy just to see. This isn't like making her a bad guy is one thing, but this is like legit go away heat. I mean, they were cheering for another villain to beat her up. So that's why I was just like, oh, this is getting bowl and shoe ugly.
And the match was rather short. It was 9 minutes long. So I mean, I was just like
shorter than that.
Yeah, it was 9 minutes. So I mean, hey, they did what they had to do in there. Next up, we have for the Intercontinental Championship, we had the champion Gunther defending against Matt Riddle. I expected the match to be a little longer than what it was. It was 7 minutes, 45 seconds. And
it didn't seem like it, though.
But you know what? They did a lot within that time. I mean, as they say in the biz, it should end. But I didn't expect the match to end on a submission the way that he got away. I mean, they worked the knee. I think he was doing doing something with his foot or with his
heel hook.
Yeah, with the heel hook. And I mean, won the match. I'm just like, whoa.
Hey, let's give Gunther some credit right now, too. He has literally kind of brought back some mystique, some recognition to that IC title. I mean,
he's the longest reigning IC champion in this century, and he's about, because I know Honky Tonk Man held the title 15 months, from June of 87 to August of 88. He held 15 months. So again, we'll see. I'm sure he'll break it, but we'll see what happens.
I mean, they've built him up as a unbeatable man right now.
Right.
And I like it. I mean, I like his ring style. He's
Oh, yeah.
He's very physical. He's bringing that British strong style over here, and he's also incorporating some of that Japanese style from over. He's a different type of guy, which I like. It's something different with his ring style, his
old school
presence,
heel,
how he's carrying himself and everything. So it was a good win for him, though. I mean,
it was definitely good. I wish the match was a little longer. I was just very surprised how the match ended. I was like, submission? That's different. But again, and also too with Gunther, dropping a lot of weight that he did, he is shredded now, and I think that just says a lot in regards to how long. I mean, again, he put on the match at Mania. The triple threat match. That was, oh my God.
I think his coming out match was against him and Sheamus at Clash of the Castle, though.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and I'm not saying that he's had bad matches outside of that company, but I really think that was the one everybody
started paying attention to.
Noticing what this man can do in the ring with Sheamus. That was two hard-boned guys going at it. And
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Now, on the next match, we have Dominic Mysterio with Rhea Ripley in his corner, going up against Cody Rhodes. And let me just say, the Cody Rhodes, and I just interviewed his sister recently. Shout out to Teal for coming on to the D-Lew Podcast. But Cody is the babyface we've needed for a long time.
Yeah,
because this isn't force fed. This isn't.
He's organically over with
absolutely.
With the fans like him. Right
fans
now.
like him, and it really just goes to show you. Granted, I think there is a slight difference between the AEW crowd and the WWE crowd. I think the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes, the character, the Highlander coat, and all of. I think that was more suited for a WWE superstar
and not an AEW crowd.
All right, and I'm not crapping on AEW at all.
I'm not going to knock AEW or WWE. I don't like knocking any promotion. Like I said, I don't do it. I'm just speaking on it, just how I'm just going to see it.
Right.
I just think Cody Rhodes was better fit for the WWE, more so than AEW. Just because of how AEW is, some of their storylines is all over the place. And I think, I'm trying to find the right word to say, Cody's story fits the WWE mold better. I mean, you got a guy that, he came in there, he was wet behind the ears, he left, started finding his niche. He found who he was as a performer and what he was going to sell to a WWE audience. And it caught lightning in a bottle really quickly. Now, let's get to Dominic Mysterio right now.
Yeah.
This boy has done something that's amazed me. He has generated natural heel heat just from attacking his dad. And I like this because he is the polar opposite of his father right now.
Right.
His dad is awesome as a face.
Babyface, yeah.
And his son is a charismatic heel right now. I really want to see where this Dominic Mysterio character goes, and they can always tweak it. But it's been a breath of fresh air just to see something totally different, instead of him being a typical good guy. And I think fans were going to sour on him just.
They were already souring on him, and then when he turned on Edge and his dad at the Clash of the Castle, I was just like, oh wow. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
And that was the best thing for him that's happened, because now you're starting to see how he's becoming his own personality now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good for him, and that's good for the business. And all shouts to him, though.
Yeah, but I mean, I thought the match was going to be a lot longer, because when they announced the match, I'm like, it brought me back to when Cody wrestled Rey at WrestleMania 27. That was actually was a very underrated match.
Yeah, it was. That was a lot better than I haven't watched it in a while. I may have to watch this again, though. But that feud that they had was pretty good, though.
Yeah, and I mean, it did a lot for Cody, and I was thinking, I figured where Cody would win, but I thought it would really put some shine on Dominic, and it did. I just thought the match should have been a little bit longer, but I guess with all the matches, when you're talking about, what we're going to get to in the main event, they would definitely needed that time.
It was a filler. I mean, it was just something just to get the pop out of crowd, to fill some space, and just do what they got to do.
Well, what ended up happening after that kind of explains why Dom and Cody, went only 8 minutes and 40 seconds. And that was out of nowhere. We saw John Cena unannounced returns at Money in the Bank, and the crowd were completely beside themselves. And we were in the chat yesterday, and I was saying, it wouldn't shock me, and you can verify this. I said he's probably going to announce something about WrestleMania coming to London, and that's exactly what he did. Now, I said WrestleMania 41, but he just said WrestleMania in London in general. And I'll go a little bit further right now on that. I was watching the press conference with Triple H last night, and so obviously a lot of people were asking him about, everyone.
It was an elephant in the room, so you had
to address it in regards to everyone. Shout out to Sean Ross Sapp from Fightful that was at the scrum last night. Huge advocate, for me. I really appreciate what you did for me. But they were talking about, the possibility of WrestleMania being in London, and Triple H went on to explain that it's a lot difficult than what it is on paper.
It is. I mean, that's a logistics thing,
right?
Because you got television marketing. Where are you going to put everybody? It would be good to see. Personally, I wouldn't mind it because it would remind me of. Was it 93 when they went to Wembley?
Oh, that's 92, SummerSlam 92.
I think they would shatter any record right now. I mean, just acknowledge that crowd was into every match from bell to bell. Yeah, that entire audience was in it. I think they do deserve it because Canada's had plenty of them there.
Right. But also, too, Canada had 2 WrestleManias, but you're talking about going over the border versus you're going across Atlantic, and then you're talking about logistics, not just for the wrestlers, but for the wrestlers' families. Mm-hmm. Then you have the employees' families you have to consider. Yeah. You have to consider about buses, getting them from one place to another. Then you have to have Mania Week events. Having covered Mania Week, I can tell you.
Honestly, I know that meeting is going to be something else.
Let me tell you something right now. When they say that the WWE machine, having been up close to it, that is 100% factual facts. It is so many moving parts in that company.
I heard it's a fast moving.
It is. So. It's insane of how many people are there and they're making sure this is taking care of this. You got everybody doing a job for this, that, and the other. So I understand. And once Hunter really broke it down during the press conference last night after the event, I was like, okay, I totally understand why. Mm-hmm. So John Cena, to the surprise of the fans, really cut a passionate promo about, WrestleMania London. Then of course Grayson Waller comes out, and I'm like, okay, I know what this is about. They're gonna do a little deal or whatever, and he's talking about shitting on London, and he's Australian, and he's talking about how WrestleMania can go to Australia, and John Cena versus me, and then John was like, well, you want me to give the rub to you in Australia? I was like, oh man,
he don't care anymore.
He doesn't care anymore, no. And so yeah, of course, John Cena does the deal, does the AA, and send everyone's all happy. Yeah, absolutely.
But shout out to him though, man, because I've seen a lot of guys in this industry in a position that he was in do a lot worse based off of a audience reaction. But he stood to his character and his morals, and I think now it's to the point where he's not there. I think the audience is really missing him.
Your brother said Brian said this was gonna happen. This may have been about 10 years ago. He said, you know what? When Cena walks away, the fans are gonna miss him and they're gonna appreciate what he did. And what's even crazier is that Paul Heyman was on Rick Rubin's podcast a couple of weeks ago, which, by the way, is about a 3.5 hour episode. One of the absolute best podcast episodes I've ever heard in my entire life. Paul is such an amazing storyteller and just such a student of the game. That was almost like a college course I took in wrestling. Anyways, he was talking about John Cena's contributions to Make-A-Wish. Mm-hmm. He said John Cena didn't want anyone to know about the Make-A-Wishes that he was doing. And Vince was like, look, you're going to have to start letting me go public about these Make-A-Wishes because it's not really doing the company any favors, and we want this, this relationship to go. John is just doing it out of whatever.
Yeah, I've heard they said that he's done some stuff outside of companies. They say he's visited homes.
He's
stayed with some people. He's took care of some people, and to me, that just shows you the maturity of he is as he grown. I mean, everybody goes to their young spurts, but I think he's well aware of his audience and who he's engaging to.
Right.
So I'm thinking that's a smart thing on him. He knows that kids is watching him.
Right.
And people are looking up to him. So he's done everything to me. I would say Cena, if he is very underappreciated. I think now everybody's seeing what he meant to that company. Everybody's just taking a step back and saying,
right,
oh, we really miss a guy like him right now. Because outside of, it's nobody that's gravitating right now.
Cody, well, that's what I was saying. Cody is the baby face that we need now because now people are like, okay, we kind of crapped on Cena. We're not going to crap on him.
Yeah.
Cody's going to be our guy. He's going to wave the WWE flag.
You need one character that is pure of heart.
Absolutely.
I'm not necessarily just saying that as an analogy. You need one really good guy over. And I think Cody's doing that very well. I think how he's handling it as well.
Right.
But John Cena is John Cena. I mean, like I said, this man he's fought everybody.
Literally has fought everybody.
Everybody. I mean, his come up was good. I think now everybody's really missing him. And now he's at a twilight of his career where he's not going to be doing this any longer. So I think now the fans are really just appreciating the fact that he's taking time out of a schedule that he has to come to see fans. That's paying harder money to see him. I'm not knocking The Rock for doing this, but The Rock is in and out. And you can understand that's a busy lifestyle.
Comparing what John Cena's doing versus what The Rock, it's two different things. He's a mogul, and he's been doing it and building his brand for a very, very long time.
I'm not knocking him, but I'm just saying it's just
two different things.
How he's coming, how Cena is just making unannounced visits,
right?
Saying The Rock, where you don't know when the next time he's going to happen,
right? And it could be contractual. It could be a lot of different things. But again, kudos to John Cena for showing up at Money in the Bank. Next, we have the women's Money in the Bank ladder match with Io Sky, Bayley, Becky Lynch, WWE Hall of Famer Trish Stratus, Zelina Vega, and of course Zoe Stark.
This was a good one. This was a real good one.
Yeah, it was. First off, kudos to Zoe Stark for taking that code red on the ladder. Oh my God.
Ooh.
And I saw she protected herself, which is great. But I mean, man.
Just the optic of it, man.
Yeah, it was. I'm like, wow. Yeah, she really took it. And Trish Stratus took a face plant to the.
Shout out to her, though.
Yeah.
Because for being, 40?
She's 46 years old.
And she was in there mixing it in with them girls. I mean.
By the way, her very first ladder match she's ever been in, Trish Stratus.
She held it down. I mean, she held her own. You can tell this was something like a fish out of water, but as the match went along, she was getting into it. I think she always wanted to work with some girls that were a lot more physical than what they had back then.
Yeah.
Because you can just tell, I mean, the girls back then to what they have now is two different beasts. These girls are literally athletes that she's in there with now. So I think it's probably getting her a little bit more riled up and excited more just to actually compete with them.
Yeah, and I mean, even like someone like Eve Torres, I thought would have thrived now. Because, you know what I mean? She has a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background. She's, married to with Hannah Gracie. And girls like her would have thrived. Obviously, Beth Phoenix would have ran the table in this era. Yeah. But it just goes to show you it's the timing. But
it's growth.
But the spot of the night was Io Sky handcuffing both Bayley and Becky Lynch under one of the rungs, and she used Bayley as a boost to get up and climb the ladder, and she is Miss Money in the Bank. So
shout out to Bayley too, because she has doing her best to get all these girls over the best way she can.
Yeah,
but the highlight for me was when Zelina Vega pulled out the slipper.
Oh,
I had to laugh at that. It was like
La Plancha. Was it La Cancha? La Chancla, yeah.
Pardon me if I got it wrong.
Yeah, pardon me too. And I should be better at that. But no, that was a highlighter. And I don't think the British fans really got the colloquialism because of the fact that they just don't know. But for all my my Latino friends, they know. They know what's going on.
This episode of the D-Lew Podcast is brought to you by Goalie Nutrition.
As someone who's used Goalie for quite some time, I can tell you that they're not only very good, but they're very beneficial. My favorite are the Super Green Gummies. The Super Green Gummies are uniquely crafted with a spectrum of essential nutrients such as vitamins A, B12, folic acid, and thiamine. It supports a healthy liver function, healthy nervous and immune system, digestive health, a boost to your metabolism, and overall health and well-being. There are no artificial sweeteners, flavors, or colors from artificial sources. They're vegan-friendly, gluten-free, and gelatin-free. All loyal listeners of the D-Lew Podcast get a special 10% discount at checkout. Go to goalie.com, use promo code DLEW. That's goalie.com, use promo code DLEW. But next we have the World Heavyweight Championship match between the World Heavyweight Champion Seth freaking Rollins defended against Judgment Day's Finn Balor. Dude, first off, Finn Balor's mask. Holy.
That was hard.
Oh, man.
That was hard.
Because, mind you, WWE fans never saw him as a heel outside of WWE.
And he was a killer over Japan.
Oh, my God.
Heel, so.
He was a great heel. And this match was, I knew they were going to put the work in. They put 12 minutes, 30 seconds. And
I wish it was longer, though.
Of course, we're going to get to that, the reason why. Mm-hmm. But I just think that, Seth Rollins is really building up. And after during the press conference last night, he was saying that, hey, it's going to take time to build some equity with this title. I'm just paraphrasing, but he was saying how Roman built up the title. He said, but I want to do what Brett did. I'm going to do what, a lot of the other guys did. And that's just really build up the title. So
they got the right guy for it right now.
Absolutely. He definitely deserves it.
He's a workhorse dude. So
I'm
glad they brought this belt back for it. Now it'll make the show worth having a world champion on there to go for, because with Roman holding all the belts, it's kind of put like some storylines in stagnates where you could have had a title mean something. Balor and Rollins, this was a 7-year rivalry that really they touched and went about it, but this is their first time in a really while kind of saying like, well, this happened 7 years ago. You basically cost me my spot. With one move, and what ended up happening? Now Finn's been up and down, and Rollins' star just elevated even more with that man going down with that.
Organic story to tell itself, and of course, in the middle of the match, Mr. Money in the Bank himself, Damian Priest, comes down the aisle, and he's sitting. Yeah, absolutely, and he distracted Finn, and of course Rollins won with the curb stomp and retains the World Heavyweight Championship. And, of course, we have the main event, Bloodline Civil War.
Ooh.
The Usos, Jimmy and Jay, defending against the remaining members of the Bloodline, Solo Sikoa and the undisputed WWE Universal Champion, Roman Reigns.
It's going to be an awkward Thanksgiving dinner.
It's going to be an awkward, no. It's going to be an awkward 4th of July on Tuesday. It's going to be an awkward Labor Day. It's going to be an awkward Columbus Day, Halloween.
The whole 9
yards. Whole 9 yards. Even Election Day is going to be very awkward. So let's start with it, man. This story has been 3 years.
And you know how hard it is for, let's see, how am I going to say this? For an audience to be invested in something that's been 3 years.
Right.
That is classic storytelling at its finest. Because normally an attention span of an audience is show to show.
Yeah.
This Bloodline thing has elevated so many different people. And it's so many different narratives that you can really go with this. To me, this is more like a Godfather type storyline.
Right.
You got Roman's rise to power.
Right.
You seen him come back, and he became the tribal chief, which is something I like saying.
Yeah. Acknowledge me. Right.
But if you really, this is like a mafia movie. If you really look at it, you got the big man who's pretty much acknowledging like I'm putting the family's lineage all on me, which to me sounds like a villain gone right. Every
in a way,
villain,
right.
Every villain has a story
right.
that you want to believe that they're the good guy in it. So if you look at it like that, then you got his cousins who haven't fallen in line, or he basically was a sibling rivalry that's going wrong. And now you got his cousins involved in all of this. Now you have the one cousin that's conflicted on either doing the right thing, basically saying, like, my cousin then lost his mind, saying he's doing the right thing. Then you added in the Sami Zayn element, and that took this to me, I think when Sami, they put him in, this kind of really blew it up.
Especially when they had those segments, man, that just went array to the point of like they completely lost control because Sami Zayn said the one SmackDown where he said he isn't being really oozy, and I think they lost. I don't think that line was in the script, and they all had I think it was Jay. They just kept breaking, and Roman was like, "Come here." He said, "Come."
You can tell they was trying not to break character, but you couldn't help it. But I think something like that was a refresher for them. So when that turn happened and you're going to have Roman pretty much be the villain that he is right now, it got a lot of people emotionally involved in these decisions right now. I've seen this crowd pop, not necessarily from a move, but just a reaction.
Yeah.
Let's see.
The chair shot on Roman at the Rumble.
I was just going to say that. I say the chair shot. That was one. Everybody in their right mind was like, thank you. And it's just like, you know how hard it is to really get people involved, because everything in pro wrestling, people want it here, right now, literally right now.
Instant gratification.
Mm-hmm. And for them to hold off on this and to make these moments happen, that's classic storytelling, which is something that I love. I mean, at the end of the day, it's, to me, I don't care who's really the good guy or the bad guy. The match is the match, but the story is the payoff in it at the end. Right. So when he hit him with the chair, that was the investment with me. Like, oh, that's the payoff. Now you're going to see, like, even though Kevin Owens is his friend.
But he was handcuffed. He was still handcuffed, yeah.
And it was just like, I can't let this go on no further. Enough.
Right.
So when he hit him, I was sitting there like, oh, crap. This is really going to go down.
Right.
Then when Jay got on him, and then when he walked away from it, that's when I was like, oh, man, this is really interesting now.
This story, like I said, this is 3 long years. And the cool thing is that it's teaching the fans now, be patient. Like Roman said at the press conference at WrestleMania, he just said, we ain't feeding you fast food, we're giving you filet mignon. Yeah. So you got to absorb it and just let it enjoy the ride. You know what I mean?
And I think people are going to miss this storyline when it's done.
Oh, when it's finally done, absolutely. I mean, think about this for a second. Solo Sikoa has only been on the main roster since September last year. And he's main evented several Raws, several SmackDowns, and now several pay-per-views.
And he's been in some real highlight spots right now.
Yeah, but you know what, though? Granted, he was, they call him a rookie. But I mean, think about it, man. When you're coming from that, especially that family.
You ain't no rookie.
You ain't no rookie, man.
It's either you got it or you don't.
It's funny. I saw Rikishi yesterday when I was at 2300 Arena, and I had to remind him. I said, dude, listen. I was watching that. Y'all was the Samoa SWAT team in the NWA. I said, a lot of people don't realize Paul Heyman was the original honorary Oos. He was like, tell him, man, tell him. I said, there it is.
I mean, shout out to his boys, though. I mean, Jay has really became like the unlikely sympathetic hero in all of this.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things.
If you really look at it, his arc in this is really interesting, though. He was trying to keep the family together. Then you got him and his brother going at it. And the highlight, this is another build-up moment. When Jay had the moment of truth, it wasn't a match or anything. It was just he kicked Roman right in the chops. Right. And then he did it again. And I was like, oh, now we really got something. And I think I'm with everybody. I'm going to say the unpopular thing. Much as people wanted Cody to win that thing, it has to be Jay to take it off of him.
But
I don't think they're going to do it.
Well, no. Here's the thing. Here's what I can see happening. Call me crazy. There was a recent observation that the WWE Championship still has Brock Lesnar's nameplates on them.
Oh, really?
They were never taken off.
Oh, wow.
Here's what can happen. Jey Uso wins the undisputed title.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Heyman doesn't know what to do. Guess who he calls?
Brock
Lesnar. And guess what? Now you set up Cody versus Brock at WrestleMania.
Yep. That's interesting.
Now, that would be an interesting turn if that were to happen.
Yeah, I mean, they can pull this trigger. I mean, it would. If this whole scenario is good. It's interesting because now we don't know what's going to happen next, and I like that. I hate when like stuff comes out online saying, "Well, this is going to happen." I hate it. I tend to stay away from sheets.
Yeah, I haven't been on.
I don't like reading them because I want to be surprised to see what's going to happen next.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, the match went 32 minutes 10 seconds, and Jey Uso pins Roman Reigns, who has not been pinned in 3.5 years. December 2019 was the very last time that Roman Reigns took a pin in the ring.
That was against Baron Corbin. I think,
yeah. So that was historical, but it had to be Jey that got the pin.
Yeah.
Because think about, I think someone said even on the main roster, Roman Reigns ate a pin from Jey Uso.
Yeah, his first match
when he was in the Shield.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. So it's so many different scenarios we could talk about when it comes to this storyline and where it's going to go. Triple H mentioned in the press conference last night that the event Money in the Bank 2023 was the highest grossing arena event in the entire history of the WWE. In the history.
Say that loud again.
In the history of WWE. Because think about this for a second. I know WrestleMania 20, I was in attendance. I think that grossed over $1 million. It may have been like 1.2, 1.3 million. That, I think. But I mean, again, it was a 20,000 seat arena. You know what I mean? So the fact that they got on record to say that this was the highest grossing arena event in the history of the company speaks volumes of the changes that has been happening in the company, from all the infrastructure. We don't need to go into that, but everything that was happening and everyone being utilized. Because I mean, heck, we all know. We think about 20, 23, 24 years ago when the Attitude Era was going on. I'm not talking about the actual content of it. I'm just talking about just the wrestlers themselves. Everybody was a main eventer back then.
I mean, you had guys that were the mid-card guys that were generally over. We were just talking about this off in our little group chat. We were just laughing at how over Mark Henry was. As
Sexual Chocolate.
Sexual Chocolate. And then you had the Godfather. Then you had, Val Venus was over.
Everybody, and listen, and it wasn't even a matter of like who was the best wrestler. It was all about who the fans were investing in, because of the character, and also to what worked back then. And I think they should really get back to that now. Are vignettes?
Yeah.
Like if there was a new character that was coming, Val Venus, they did about 5 or 6 weeks of vignettes. Heck, go back to 1992, Razor Ramon. They did about 6 or 7 weeks of vignettes.
Yep.
On Superstars and Wrestling Challenge and Primetime Wrestling.
Ready for these
to get you wrestling for. So I mean, and that's where you get the fans like, who is this guy? Who is this guy?
And this is where I kind of keep telling people, this is where some of the companies really should be taking advantage of social media to get these guys over like this. Because in this day and age, you're going to need more than just TV.
Yeah,
it's going to have to be a group effort. I mean, you got the tools right here to do it. You got all kinds of ways you can start building a character over and start doing something. Like, for an example, look at Matt Cardona. How he's basically using the internet as a weapon to get, I'm not saying like it's a weapon in a bad way, but he's using this as a vehicle and instrument to not only put eyes on his character, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what we're investing in, the character. I think the WWE should start taking really heed and going back to the old school way.
He did, but he actually did that. He was one of the first wrestlers to ever use social media as a vehicle to get over. Hey, I'm getting punished. Say what you want. I believe he got punished for it because he organically got over, because that series he was doing on YouTube was generating so much views and buzz about it. And I remember I think it was CM Punk that went on Twitter and says, "You guys need to check out Z True Long Island Story. It's freaking hilarious." And I was on my way to Connecticut.
You actually put me on.
Yeah,
I was. Yeah, we was working together.
Yeah, I was. Like, it was crazy. I was actually headed to Connecticut for a screening. And I had my phone in a dash, and I was just listening. I'm like, oh my god! This when he was trying to he was climbing the gate. He was like, I'm trying to get over. And then he had a piece of paper, and he drew a dollar sign. He said, I can draw money,
and
you
had kept telling me at work. Why? He said, give yourself 10 minutes. He said, and just watch these.
Just
clips.
watch it, man.
And I was like, all right. Then you finally sent me one, and I was in stitches. I was like, yo, this dude is crazy.
Yeah, man. But that's what I'm saying. It just really good. But they can show the vignettes on TV. They can show the vignettes on the WWE Twitter, Instagram page. There's so many ways that they can really get these cats over. But
they can do TikTok videos.
They can do TikTok. They can do a lot. But I think it's all about who they want.
Yeah.
And this is fine, but I think when in the case of LA Knight is, like I said,
he's gotten over it, and he hasn't even really did anything really significant. I'm not saying that. I'm not knocking him in a bad way. It's glad to see an organic rise.
Right.
Coming about. Now, we don't know if he's a face or a heel, or just let him just come out and just say whatever. I think now they're just starting to let him be themselves. And I think that company now is starting to let some of these guys and gals be themselves.
That was a formula that worked before. Like, they let these guys say, you know what, let's turn the volume up to 11. That's who they are. Austin never, ever said he was a heel or babyface.
He just came out
right.
Yes, man.
Right. I'll never forget. I was watching... Oh, man, I'm trying to remember which paper.
He was marketed as they had him as a face, but he was using
heel tactics. Tactics. He was a heel. He wrestled the same way. Mm-hmm. He didn't change. You know what I mean? Heel or baby. Mm-hmm. There's only a few cats that can do that. Randy Savage did it. Ric Flair did it. CM Punk did it. He didn't change as far as who he was. Either you booed him or you paid. And of course. You know what I mean? So it's so many ways that you can do to get that. But I don't know. We have a lot in store for 2020. That's just the first half of 2023. Think about that.
First 6 months.
The first 6 months. I mean, we went from the Royal Rumble, with all the, with the Sami Zayn blowing up with the bloodline. Sami Zayn challenging for the title at Elimination Chamber in his hometown of Montreal. Then you have the 2 nights of WrestleMania. Then they go to Puerto Rico for Backlash.
So they've been on. I mean, if you really look. With all these changes that's been going on in that company, and it has been not like this ain't minor changes that's going on. I mean, behind the sign, this is significant moves.
Yeah.
And the fact that this has happened and they have not missed a beat.
Yeah.
As a production show, my hat's to them for this because I mean that's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Sans they gotta put out a weekly television show weekly.
two weekly shows.
Well, you should say 3.
Yeah, because NXT, and then don't forget all the content they have to do for social media. All those other things.
They missed the damn beat.
No. And I just think it's business as usual. Even when Vince was on trial, the steroid trial '94, they were still moving as if he was still not on trial. You know what I mean? Because they were able to there's always a move. The machine always moves.
I mean, they got to me now. I think they got a very, very, very good roster right now. I just think the E really needs to sometimes just get out of their own way and just start putting the rocket ship on some of these guys and gals and just letting them go. I mean, I understand it's his company. He's going to want to do what he want to do. But you need to really take heed of your audience. This pretty much, they're going to let you know who you want to see and who you don't.
Especially when the merchandise is moving, when the reactions are just, you know what I mean? Like those weren't piped in cheers for LA Knight.
No,
those weren't piped in boos for Dom.
No.
You know what I mean? Like
he's getting merchandise now. Now he's gonna. What's gonna be interesting is to see the merch sales on LA Knight's gear.
Yeah.
Because if they start seeing that this guy in this arena or wherever or social media is coming out with the and everything else. Now imagine if he does this. He's got the Now imagine if he brings out that dummy button.
Dummy, yeah, dummy, yeah.
I legitimately can see that dummy button selling just as big as
absolutely. Now here's an idea that I had. You know how they recreated the "I'm Your Poppy" shirt to the "I'm Your Mommy," right? Mm-hmm. Remember the "What" shirt?
Yeah.
They need to put and put the LA Knight logo at the bottom at the exclamation point. Mm-hmm. That would be a really good idea.
Yeah, I think they're going to put this shirt out first as a test to see if people are really going to start getting behind this guy. So if y'all really want to get behind him, start getting the merch.
Go to WWEshop.com. I'm going to give him a free plug because, hey, what the hell?
Because you can. It's your podcast.
Yeah, it's my podcast. Yeah, but it's go to WWEshop.com. Get LA Knight's merch. Get his tees and support the guy because, again, he's a guy. Now, I'll be honest with you. I could see happening if he's challenging Theory for the U.S. title.
That would be smart.
That would be smart to do.
It's a smart and a safe thing because that way you can put that belt on him. It'll put some prestige on that, and it'll make him better. I wouldn't say that he's already good. I mean, it's going to put some eyes on him and pretty much who he's going to be in there with. As this should be a test thing for him. It should be a no-brainer. Him and Theory are feuding for this belt right now, but
because they're both on SmackDown now, so it makes total sense. I would love to see that at SummerSlam. That's coming on August 5th at Ford Field. That's going to be an incredible night for sure. But you guys have the Watcherz Podcast, and we got to get out here in a little bit. But tell the people where they can find it, where they can listen, and just the premise of the whole show.
All right, basically the premise of the Watcherz Podcast was just for us. Just to have some fun and just offshoot, like weekly events in pop culture and everything. You can actually find us on Apple, iTunes. We're on YouTube, and we got a lot of other stuff coming up soon that we're still working on. So stick with us. Thank you so much for your support and everything else. And it's the WATCHERZ podcast on YouTube, Spotify, everything you can find on your social media pages. So,
yeah, definitely check those guys out. Like I said, I follow them on Instagram, and you can go to the pages that I follow. You can just look up the Watcherz Podcast and just give them a follow. Tell them, do me a favor, just follow them, all right? Because I said so. Make sure you do that. Well, we're gonna get out of here, and thank you so much for coming by. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem.
And we'll definitely do some more reviews. Somewhere down the road for sure. Maybe SummerSlam. Maybe we can we'll do that.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine with me. I'm all for it.
All right, man. Take care.
Peace.
Well, that does it for this week's edition of the D-Lew Podcast. Again, I want to thank Julian Smith for coming by and breaking down the entire Money in the Bank event. And again, it was so much fun doing that. And I'm hopeful to bring him back on for future events as we break down events, whether it's Ring of Honor, WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, or any other wrestling promotions that are out there. Because, like I promised you guys before, I'm going to have a little bit more wrestling content on this show as well. Speaking of pro wrestling, although I will not be in attendance this weekend, I won't be at the show, have a previous obligation, you can check out SWF's Feel the Heat event this Saturday, July the 8th, at the Outdoor Pavilion at the Homedale Motor Inn. It's right off Route 35 in South Homedale, New Jersey, right down at the Garden State Parkway. Tickets on sale now. I'm starting at $25. You can go to swfwrestling.com, featuring the innovator of violence, the landlord of the House of Hardcore, and the heart and soul of professional wrestling, the one and only Tommy Dreamer, that will be on the card as well, in addition to all of the stars of the SWF. So best wishes to their show this weekend, although, like I said, I miss those guys, and I can't wait to be back with you guys soon. You can head over to my store, shop.derricklewis.com. You can get some really cool tees and hoodies. I know it's summertime right now, but if you want to get a jump start on the fall season and going into the winter season, you can definitely get yourself some hoodies. And of course, you can get yourself some t-shirts, tank tops, etc., etc. You can go again, shop.derricklewis.com. You can also go to all my social media. So that's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and even now the new app Spill at The Real D-Lew. Facebook is, of course, Derrick T. Lewis official page. Don't forget, guys, if you're listening to this podcast for the very first time, no matter which platform that you're on, whether it's iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or any other platforms that are out there. Hit the subscribe button so you automatically get all new content of the D-Lew Podcast, okay? Well, I'm going to get out of here, and just remember, no matter what you do in life, always remember to make it count. See you next time.